having a nice week. Say quick prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaः. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam
स्थापितं येन
Dale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Kamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam
संविजातं
Samhitam Satam Sajivam
सकनरघुनाथं
Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaltarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Guruve Gaur Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So let me share my screen. So if you remember, last verse we discussed about how people of this world, in the material world, we have this material disease or bhav rog, which Rup Goswami has compared to jaundice or pitta rog or jaundice. So he says that's why, because of jaundice, we are not able to taste the sweet name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Lord. So the Hari Kirtan, Hari Katha, Japa, everything seems bitter to us. We don't have taste for them because we are suffering from this jaundice of material disease. So the treatment for jaundice is to give a little bit of sugarcane juice to the diseased person every day. And by getting a little of sugarcane juice every day on his tongue, eventually the jaundice goes away and the relish for that nectar of sugarcane juice again comes. Similarly, the same thing that we find bitter right now, we should take it in a very disciplined way, in a prescribed way, as a prescription, as a treatment every day, a set amount, just like a medicine is given in a set dose, and you have to take in that amount, otherwise the medicine will not work. So similarly, a set quantity or set amount of Harinam, Harikatha, Harikirtan should be consumed by this diseased jiva every day. And then his disease will go away. This jaundice of material disease will go away. And he will again start finding them sweet. So the sweetness will come. But initially we find them bitter because of our own affliction, our own disease. But eventually we'll start finding them sweet. We'll develop taste for them, attachment and attraction to them. So that was the last verse, Nectar of Instruction, verse 7. Now let's do verse 8, and I will see if we can do 9 also. At least we'll read both of them today, and we'll try a little bit of 9 also. So let's do call and response, Nectar of Instruction 8. तन नाम रूप चरितादि सुकीर्तनानु तन नाम रूप चरितादि सुकीर्तनानु स्मृत्यो क्रमेण रसना मनसि नियोज्य स्मृत्यो क्रमेण रसना मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजे तदनुरागी जनानुगामी तिष्ठन् व्रजे तदनुरागी जनानुगामी Kalam naedakhilam iti upadeshasaram.
कालं
Kalam
नयेद अखिलं
naedakhilam
इति
iti
उपदेशसारम्.
upadeshasaram. So let's understand a little bit of word to word before we read the translation, then it'll make more sense. So I'll start from the last couple of lines before we go to the first two lines. So you can see Rup Goswami saying, Iti Upadesh Saram. This is the sar or essence of all instructions. So this tells you that this verse is the last instruction actually. So his instructions, his updesh will finish with this verse. So he says this is the essence of all advice. So ultimately he's come to give us the conclusion of all advice, all instructions. What should you do? He says, Kalam means time, Naed, utilize. Akhilam. Akhilam means full or complete, all, like entire time. Like we say, Krishna is Akhil Brahmand Nayak. Like he's not just the Nayak of this Brahmand, this universe. He's Akhil Brahmand Nayak. Or there is another song, right? Akhil word comes many, many times. Akhil means sampurn or complete, entire. So it is saying, entire time, utilize your entire time in doing what? Now come back to the first line. And this is similar to the last verse that we read. So he says, Tan. Tan means his, okay, that or his. His Naam Roop Charitadi Sukirtananu. So do the kirtan, do the remembrance and the glorification of his Naam, Roop and Charitra, means his name, form, qualities, pastimes. Do their kirtan, okay? Smrityo, also remember them. So glorify and remember his name, roop, qualities, pastimes. So do kirtan and remember. How? How should you do it? You should do it all the time. And what will happen? Kramena rasana. If you remember, rasana word also came in the last verse. That the rasana means tongue. That our tongue does not have the taste. Remember, it said the tongue does not have the taste for his name, roop, qualities, pastimes right now. So here again, it's saying that by gradually engaging, niyojya means engaging or using your tongue and mind in glorifying and remembering his name, roop, qualities, and pastimes. And what else should you do? You should tishthan braje. By residing in Vrindavan, tad anuragi jananugami. Anuragi means, like if I'm somebody's anuragi means I'm their beloved. I'm anurag, people that have anurag for somebody. So tad anuragi, people that have anurag or love or attachment for him. Those jana, those people. So tad anuragi jana, those people that have anurag, attachment or love for him. Him means Krishna. Anugami, follow them, okay, become their disciple, become their follower, take instructions or guidance from them, serve them. Anugami, become subservient to them. So this verse is saying, this is the Upadesh Saram. Rup Goswami is saying, this is the essence of all Upadesha, that all the entire time, 24 hours a day, utilize all your time, Akhilam Kalam Akhilam, the entire time, spend your time in glorifying and remembering his name, form, qualities, and pastimes, engaging your tongue and mind in these activities, residing in Vraja, and while in Vraja, you follow in the footsteps or follow the instructions of his beloved devotees. Okay. In this way, if you spend your entire time, then that's the conclusion of all instructions that will achieve, ultimately you will achieve perfection. So this is a sense of all Updesha. So now let's read the translation. Who can read this?
Okay,
Mataji,
Mataji. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Translation by Sri Prabhupada. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Golok, Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of the devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, we won't be reading the purport too much because we will read the first maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs, but here is, and you can read the purport on your own. But Prabhupada has mentioned very extraordinary high concepts in the purport, which now go beyond the level of sadhana bhakti, and they are going towards the next level, which is called Raganuga Bhakti, which is the perfection of bhakti. So in today's class, I'm going to cover 2 or 3 main topics. Okay, 3 main topics. Most important of that is Prabhupada is covered in this verse is how to train your mind. Okay, he talks about training of the mind, which I think is most important for the sadhakas, for our level, for practitioners of sadhana bhakti, Vedi bhakti, people that are practicing by following a proper discipline and regulative rules and regulative principles, rules and restrictions. So for those people like us who do not have much taste or attachment, spontaneous absorption in Krishna's Naam, Roop, Gun, Leela, for those people are called sadhakas, who follow a discipline, a practice of spiritual activities. Okay, so in a disciplined way, they perform various spiritual practices. Those are called sadhakas. For them, training of mind is most important. So we will focus on training of the mind today a little bit. Then the next level is after sadhana bhakti, when somebody perfects themselves a lot, they advance to the next level where they have spontaneous love and attraction for the Lord. So they don't have to be told to get up early and chant. They're not even able to sleep because they are so attached to the names. They want to do Lord's name, kirtan and japa and hari katha all night, all day. So they have spontaneous attraction. This becomes their life and soul. So for us, we have to force ourselves. We have to do this in a very disciplinary manner. Like a child has to be told to go to the school. Initially, they don't want to go to school. They don't want to study. They have to be told to do their homework. In a similar way, right now we are being told by our guru, by our seniors, by our guides that do this much amount every day. At least do this much. You can't do satatam kirtayanto. You can't do 24 hours, but at least do this much. At least spiritualize your life as much as you can. But people on the Raganuga platform, so there are 2 words, Raganuga Bhakti and Ragatmika Bhakti. We won't go into that. Those facts come in Nectar of Devotion. Very high, detailed facts of devotional service. But the main thing is Rag Marg is after Sadhana Bhakti or Vedi Bhakti. Rag Marg is where somebody has spontaneous attachment or love for Krishna and his various activities, qualities, pastimes, his devotee. So he's constantly, uninterruptedly, purely engaged in devotional service. This person is on a liberated platform. This person is in complete, perfect Krishna consciousness. He's not in material consciousness at all. At our level, we keep fluctuating between material and spiritual consciousness. So that's not what we're talking about. In Rag Marg, we are talking about pure spiritual consciousness, liberated platform. So in purport, some of those aspects are coming, and those and then the third topic, so the one is mind control we'll talk about. Secondly, we will talk about a little bit about Rag Marg and Sadhana Bhakti. And the most important thing that is mentioned here, which is very unique, is Tishthan Braje. So Prabhupada says, or Rup Goswami says, reside in Vrindavan and serve under the guidance of pure devotees of the beloved devotees of the Lord. So Tishthan Braje, this thing we will talk about. So there are 2 words mentioned here. If you look at this verse, one is Kramena Rasana Manasi Neojya. Gradually engage your tongue and mind. Okay, this is our level. This is what I'm going to focus on. But the second level is Tishtan Vraje, reside in Vrindavan. So that also we will talk about. What is the spiritual world like? What is Vrindavan like? What is the glories of Vrindavan? And from now on, from the last three verses of Nectar of Instruction, 9, 10, and 11, are going to glorify Vrindavan Dham, and the hierarchy within the spiritual world will be given. Okay. So let's read verse 9 also quickly to see that hierarchy. Then we will come back to the purport of this verse. But I want you to appreciate the hierarchy that will be given in verse 9. And then verse 10 and 11 are more about Radha Kund. So let's read 9 also. Well, again to call and response. Vaikuntha janito vara madhupuri tatrapi rasotsavad. Vaikuntha janito vara madhupuri tatrapi rasotsavad. Vrindaranayam udarpani tatrapi govardhana.
Vrindaranayam udarapani ramanat tatrapi govardhana.
Radhakundamihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat.
Radha kundam ihapi gokulapate
premamrita plavanat. Kuryad asya virajato giritate sevam viveki naka.
Kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam viveki nakaha.
So in this verse, it is saying, let me again break this down for you very quick. So this is saying Vaikuntha Janito. Vara. Vara means better. So better than the Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is Madhupuri. Okay. Madhupuri is Mathura. So Janito means where Krishna took birth, because of his birth. So better than Vaikuntha is Mathura because Krishna took his birth there. Tatrapi, but better than that is Vrindaranyam, or the forest of Vrindavan, the Dwadash Kanan, or the 12 forests of Vrindavan. So Vrindavan or Vrindaranyam is better than Mathura. Why? Because Rasotsavad, because of Ras Leela, because Krishna performed his Ras Leela and many other Rasik, like intimate pastimes there. Okay. Udar Pani refers to Krishna. Okay, Udar Pani refers to Krishna. So whose hands, whose Krishna, Pani means hands and Udar means very generous. So Udar Pani is a name for Krishna. Where Krishna Ramanath, where Krishna performed his loving, intimate pastimes, because of that, Vrindavan is better than Mathura. Okay. In Vrindavan also, Tatrapi, better than that is Govardhan. So within Vrindavan also, the better place is Govardhan. And in Govardhan, the best place is Radha Kund. Why? Because Ihapi, here, Gokulpate also another name of Krishna, Gokulpati, or the master of Gokul. Because here, Gokulpati or Krishna over-flooded Radha Kund with the, so over-flooded is this word, aplava, this word, aplavanat. So he over-flooded Radha Kund with his premamrit, with his divine love, with the nectar of his love. Premamrit, with his nectar of his love, he over-flooded Radha Kund. That's why Radha Kund is even better than Govardhan. Govardhan is better than Vrindavan. Vrindavan is better than Mathura, and Mathura is better than Vaikuntha. Kuryat asya. Now last line is a question. It's like a rhetorical question where Rup Goswami is saying Viveki means intelligent. Kuryat means where? Naka. Where is that intelligent person who will not serve Sevam Viveki Naka, which intelligent person will not serve this beautiful place that is situated at the tat, meaning at the foots, or at the foothill of Govardhan. Virajato Giritate. So this Radha Kund that is Virajman or situated at Giritat, at the foothills of Govardhan, which intelligent person will not serve such an exalted, beautiful place? So you can see that in this verse, Rup Goswami is giving us now a gradation or like a hierarchy of Lord's Dham. So these are all spiritual places, very, very worshipable, wonderful, liberated souls are serving there. But just in terms of rasa, some of these places are higher than the other. And so Rup Goswami is giving us that hierarchy. Okay. So let's read this translation also. Can someone read this?
I can read,
read,
Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
No,
Go ahead,
go ahead.
Mataji. No, you go ahead. It's okay.
Hare Krishna, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura, Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Ras Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavana is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme for it's overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prem of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? Haribol.
Haribol. So I hope these two verses are clear. Now let's go back. So I just wanted to give you guys a little, all of you a little taste of what is coming up. So what is coming up is Vrindavan Dham and especially Radha Kund and its glorification. Some of us will be visiting Govardhan soon, so I think this is a very wonderful time to read about these verses before we go. But all of you have been to Vrindavan, or some of you may be planning to go, some of you are planning to live there. So I think these last few verses are very important for us. So let's read the first one or two paragraphs, maybe first two paragraphs of the purport. So Rekha Mataji, can you read this first paragraph?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Purport. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is specially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8.6, it is said, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam evati kunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
Haribol. So before we read the next paragraph, I just wanted you to see we are reading verse 8, and Prabhupada is focusing on this part of the verse where Rupa Goswami is saying that gradually um, engage or train your tongue and mind in the kirtan and remembrance of his name, form, qualities, pastime. So gradually start engaging your tongue and mind. So Prabhupada is starting with the mind control. And he's saying, this line is very interesting to me. I thought this was very interesting. He says the Krishna consciousness movement is meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. So this is the main thing we are doing. Every day we are struggling with mind and we are training it, we are trying to control it, trying to tame it. so that it will always stay engaged in Krishna's business, whether it's chanting, whether it's through chanting, through services, through purifying our body by eating prasadam, many things, right? Through kirtan, through harikatha, we are just constantly training the mind. So as sadhakas, this is our main business, to train the mind. As long as mind is untrained, it will not let you get close to Krishna. So Prabhupada says, in this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. This is the whole problem. Mind is the entire problem. And this can become very dangerous for a soul, because whatever mind decides to think at the end of life, that's where you will end up. So if in the end, if a mind decides to, go in different inauspicious directions, then that's the kind of consciousness you will achieve next time, or that type of birth you will get. So Prabhupada is saying this is very dangerous for a conditioned soul. So very important business that we control the mind. Now let's read this till here. Can somebody read who has not read yet?
I can read.
Yes. Nanda.
At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the settled form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, one can think of Krishna at the time of death. He can be transferred to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Sri Rup Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be able to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained only to speak of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Sri Rup Goswami further advises, Tishtan Vraja. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Rajbhumi. Rajbhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 crores in area. 1
Kroshas.
crore,
Krosha.
krosha. 1 krosha equals 20 square miles.
2 square miles.
2 square miles, sorry. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is the further.
We'll stop here. So this is the entire summary of this verse. So Prabhupada is starting with mind control. Then he says, control your tongue also by speaking of Krishna and tasting only Krishna Prasad. And in this way, one should live in Vrindavan or any part of Rajbhumi and serve under the guidance of an advanced devotee, take shelter of an advanced devotee. So let me just take a pause here. Sorry, I'm just going to share my screen again in a minute. So very beautiful verse. All these verses are very beautiful. And especially glories of Vrindavan, glories of Radha Kund, extraordinary. Those verses are extraordinary. So we will not talk too much about the Ragmarg Bhakti, but I want to just still focus on the Sadhana Bhakti because that's where we are. But you at least understand through these last few verses, where do we have to go? And what is the glories of that beautiful place? So right now we may just be visiting, but imagine that's your destination. That's where you want to go. That's where you want to serve. So how reverential, how wonderful that place must be. And sometimes when we go, we are not able to see the glories of that place because we are in so much material consciousness, we are not able to appreciate. So what's the big deal about this, Kunda or this Vrajbhumi? We're not able to understand or appreciate. So I will see if we can go through all of those points. Okay, let's get started. So this verse was talking about best place to perform bhakti. Okay. And then verse 9 is talking about out of all those dhams of the Lord, they're all auspicious, they're all dham because of something or the other. But which is the top place out of all those dhams also? So let's look at the mind control. I know that I'm struggling with my mind a lot, but have you ever really contemplated on this fact that mind is actually the root cause of most of our problems? Has anyone ever had this thought? Like we always say that this person caused me problem, or this situation caused me problem, or my health or body is causing me problem. But has anyone come to that realization where they think that mind is actually the source of all problems and not these other things? No,
Yes,
right?
Mataji.
Yes, okay. Okay, wow, very nice. Because that is a very high realization to have. I wanted to see, because I don't have that realization. I don't have that feeling. But we need to get to that feeling where we can identify that actually our mind is the source of all problems. We need to get to that point, really. We don't even, I mean, we that this fact is not coming into our consciousness, that the mind is actually the source of all the problems. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful story of Avanti Brahman. Actually, last year in Kartik, we read this story. We read the whole prasang of Avanti Brahman. And in that prasang, when Avanti Brahman was a very rich man, but very impure and very miserly person, sort of sinful. So eventually, when all his wealth was taken away, when he was being mistreated by people, he lost everything, all his family, all his money. He was on the road. He was just walking around like a avdhuta, basically. At that time, he had surrendered to the Lord. So at that time, he came to these very beautiful spiritual realizations. And one of the things he said was this. This is a very widely quoted verse by all our ISKCON teachers. They all quote this verse a lot. Prabhupada used to quote this verse quite a bit. This verse says, Dvija. Dvija means that Avanti Brahman Uvacha. He said, Nayam jano me sukha dukkha hetur na devatatma griha karma kala mana paramam karanam mananti samsara chakram parivartayadyat. So this Brahman said that these people, Nayam Janome, these people, it seems like they are the ones giving me all these difficulties, but they are not the cause of any difficulties for my happiness and distress. They are not the reason for my happiness and distress. Na Devatatma, neither the demigods. Griha Karma Kala, nor is my past karmas, nor is this body, nor is Kal. Kal means nor is time responsible for my miseries. Mana paramam karanam amananti. Mana, mind, is the main reason that I'm experiencing happiness and distress, and that is causing this samsara chakram and the rotation of material life. Because of my mind, I'm stuck in this samsara chakram, in this cycle of birth and death. So he identified, and this is very important. We have to identify our mind. We have to understand that how that is responsible for everything. Because no matter what happens outside, whether with the body, with the people, whatever they say, whatever they do, whatever is happening around you externally, those things get processed in the mind and then they affect us. So mind has a tendency to process them in such a way that they affect us very strongly. So it is said, like great devotees, for example, Kunti Maharani, Pandavas, seemingly they are going through a lot of sufferings, but they are not suffering. They are going through a lot of sufferings, but they're not experiencing any suffering. Please appreciate that difference. Suffering, whether it comes to you or not, is not in your hand, but whether you suffer with it or not is in your hands, because that is caused by mind. So whether or not you suffer is up to you, up to your mind control. If you have control of your mind, if you're properly situated, mind has become your best friend, then you will not feel that suffering. So whether you feel the pain caused by that suffering is up to you. So great devotees, liberated souls, exalted people, they do not feel the pain because they are not in control of their mind. The self, the soul, has become free from the control of mind, from manodharma. Mind creates this dharma. It makes some things auspicious and some things inauspicious for you, so that so when inauspicious things happen, you feel, mind makes you feel negative, mind makes you feel bad, feel horrible about it, feel painful about it. But when auspicious things happen based on our previous impressions, previous experiences, you feel positive about it, you feel happy about it. So happiness, sukha dukkha, he said, mana param karanam amananti. Mind is the reason why I feel happiness and distress both. We talk about suffering, but actually happiness is also created by manodharma. इसलिए कहते हैं ना कि ये मन के धर्म मनोधर्मा पे चल रहा है. So this is not dharma of the soul. Soul is always blissful. But because of external situations, whether we feel happiness or distress is caused by it is processed by the mind. Mind is that software which processes these external things. So it is up to you how you train that software. You can either control it or let it go uncontrolled. Uncontrolled, untamed mind will cause problems. And how it will cause problems, I'll share with you very soon. So mind your mind. This is very important. You should be very aware of your mind. We need to really be aware of your mind. We are identifying with our mind a lot. You know, bodily pains, we all, we suffer. That's a pain, because we are in bodily consciousness. We are trapped in this body. So the soul feels the pain caused to the body. But more people actually suffer from the problems caused by the mind. Okay. So we have to really, when we say we are in bodily consciousness, it's the mind that we are identifying with. We are identifying ourselves with the mind. We are, whatever mind tells us, we believe that because we think it's my belief. So when people say, I believe this, I believe that, what is actually it is their mind's belief. When we say, I feel this, I feel that, who is that? It is the mind that is feeling this and that. So people are not able to separate themselves, the soul, the self, from the mind. So whatever faith, whatever belief, whatever emotions, whatever thought, mind is thinking, we are thinking, I am thinking. So I'm identifying with the mind. But actually, we have to separate the mind from us. We have to always be aware of what my mind is thinking, what my mind is feeling, what my mind is telling me, what my mind is going through. I'm not going through these things. My mind is going through these things. So you have to be very aware of the mind. So let me show you this verse. It says, this is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, it's so this is a book. It says it's all in your head. So when we tell people, right, it's all in your head, sometimes people get offended. But it is really all in your head, whether good or bad, to perceive things auspicious, inauspicious, pleasant, unpleasant, good, bad. This is made up by mind. This is made up by mind. This is called manodharma. So look at Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Dvaite bhadra bhadra jnana sabha manodharma, ei bhala, ei manda, ei sabha brahma. So it is said in this verse, this duality, this dvait, this feeling of bhadra abhadra, or auspicious inauspicious, pleasant unpleasant, good bad, right? This gyan, this feeling of this duality, sabha manodharma, this is all made up by mind. What is good, what is bad? To say that you know this type of situation is auspicious, this type of situation is like my car got hit today, this is inauspicious. Or I got a promotion, this is auspicious. In the long run, all of those things are ultimately just, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. So mind, in our previous experiences, mind has made up these created these emotions where if this happens, we call it a positive outcome. If that happens, we call it a negative thing. So if it is positive, we are supposed to feel happy. If it is negative, we are supposed to feel sad. So this bhadra, this dvait, this duality is created by mind. Ei bhala, ei manda. This is bhala, this is good, and this is bad. This is bhram. This is brahma. Because in this material world, ultimately, everything is inauspicious only. So it's not that we have to become very joyful or very distressed about either. That is just created by the mind, this feeling of good and bad. So these are the things that mind does. It's a very famous teaching, actually, especially in all the spiritual practitioners are supposed to identify their mind. So it is very famously taught in ISKCON and in other spiritual paths also, that how do you identify your mind? You understand that mind will magnify the problem. So the problem may be very small, but it will make a mountain out of molehill. So it will always magnify the problem. It will imagine the pleasures. So it tends to, based on previous experiences, it will tend to amplify or magnify or imagine the pleasures also. It will say, if I do this, if I do that, then I will enjoy so much, you know. So what it does is it takes you away from present. It neglects the present. It keeps you distracted from the present situation. तो वो आपको present में रहने नहीं देगा. It will either focus on the past or it will create anxiety, worry about future or imagine these pleasures in the future. So it will always keep you distracted. That is why the principle of mindfulness or focus or attention has become very prominent these days, because mind tends to neglect. These are the functions of mind. It tends to neglect the present. So it makes it very hard to attend to the task at hand. It will deviate you. It will distract you. So it makes the present task very difficult. It makes it less valuable. Just like whatever we are doing right now is not as valuable as what we have done in the past. इसलिए सपने लेते हैं लोग पीछे के या आगे के हसीन सपने. So past के या present के सपने लेते हैं लोग. Why? Because it minimizes the value of present. It makes it less valuable. So that's why people miss out on enjoying or staying fully focused in the present. It minimizes them. And magnifies problems means that it will focus on the negatives. Any situation can have negative and positive, but it will focus mostly on the negatives or the problems of that situation. Any person can have negatives and positive, but it will focus on the negatives. So it basically, by focusing on the problems, it's kind of drains you. It drains your energy. It just causes so much anxiety and lamentation. You keep complaining. This is why people complain, criticize. This is why people go into anxiety, depression, because they focus on their mind is focusing on the negative so much. So they are always very fearful, always very anxious, always depressed, always stressed. So all this anxiety, depression, stress, fearfulness that comes from magnifying problems. So mind has this tendency, and some people's mind has more tendency to magnify the problems. And some people who are very like dreamers, they're just not focusing on the present, just dreaming a lot. So those people, in their mind, this problem is more prominent. They're just imagining pleasures. Ye karunga to wo ho jayega, wo karunga to ye ho jayega. So always like imagining pleasures. And neglecting present. People that are always very distracted, they have this, their mind has this tendency more prominently, where they're not able to focus on the task at hand. So they're minimizing the value of the present task. And this is a fourth problem, denies reality. So mind denies the reality and creates falsity, meaning it will give you false ideas. It will latch on to the false ideas. Like it will say, oh, this cannot be done. There is no time for this. Like it's very pessimistic. It'll say, I cannot do it. It will not work. This engagement is not worth it. Death is very far away. You can procrastinate. So it denies the reality. So people that tend to deny the reality, they don't value time. They don't value life. Death is very far away. It's okay. So in this way, they deny the present reality, and they like to just stay in this illusion. Krishna may not be real. Krishna does not, or if they're devotees, they'll say, Krishna does not love me. Krishna does not care for me. He put me in this situation. So they'll blame people. They'll blame Krishna. In this way, they have this very negative attitude about life, unnecessary fears they will have. They will deny the reality. So in this way, these are the problems caused by the mind. And we need to identify the mind. This is a quote by Sadhguru. He says, this is not the quote I wanted. So Sadhguru says in one place, he says, don't imagine, like if you have to imagine something, why do you create horror stories in your head? Why don't you create, beautiful, wonderful stories in your head? But the mind has a tendency to create horror stories. It tends to mislead us. It tends to cheat us. So you really have to identify it. It is an enemy. It is dangerous. And you have to make it your friend. So you have to become a master of your mind. So Swam Bhagwan Maharaj says these Goswamis used to be masterminds because they were masters of their mind. They could control it very nicely. I'll pause here just for a few minutes. So we are discussing how sadhaka or any spiritual practitioner, devotees, they need to be aware of their mind, identify it as a separate entity from themselves, and understand its functions, and understand that it's the mind that's creating a lot of problems for them. The situation, the people, the circumstances actually may not be the problem at all. Yes, they may be so-called auspicious, inauspicious, but it's the mind that's making you feel their auspiciousness and inauspiciousness, good or bad. Is that point clear? Anybody wants to share anything about that? Did anyone try that journaling trick we had discussed last time about writing, identifying your mind and writing about it? I don't hear anyone. Is everyone listening?
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, we are
Yes,
here.
Mataji, we are listening. I want to start. I'll start from next week.
Okay. Yeah. Journaling is very important tool for practitioners for controlling the mind, actually. Okay. So then Prabhupada said in this purport, I don't know if you appreciated, that because of hundreds and thousands of past impressions, our mind has become like this. Mind contains so many impressions and it gives us these contradictory pictures. Okay, so then one of the ways to control the mind is by practicing certain rules and regulations by these spiritual practices. So one is the regulative principles. Okay, can anyone tell me, just by your understanding, how following the regulative principles will help to control the mind? Like, let's say we say no intoxication or no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit relationships. How is that related to mind? Isn't that like bodily things? Intoxication means I'm not putting anything bad in my body, or gambling. Why is that? How is that related to mind control? Can somebody link those two for me?
Because
Mataji,
mind is the one dictates us to do certain things, that I want to drink this today, I want to gamble today, and we listen to our mind. So once we start small steps like, okay, we are not going to gamble, we are not going to intoxicate. If we follow those small steps of following those regulative principles, then further down we will be able to control our mind regularly. That's what I feel. Maybe wrong. I may be wrong, Mataji.
No, you're perfectly right. Let's see. Ramesh Prabhu is also saying something. Yes, Prabhu.
yes. So, Mataji, I was for every action, I think the mind is required because body does not has their own desire. So body has involuntary muscles. That's it. But all the desires or the action comes from the mind. There could be subconscious mind, there could be active mind, or there could be another mind that has different layers of mind. So everything originates from the mind, and then this basically when we start saying no to mind for everything that it's trying to uh, in a habit of, then it's saying okay, somebody's saying no. So then it starts then there is this lot of pressure in the mind saying okay, I'm doing that. Last time I was smoking, now I cannot do it because this, but intelligence is saying no. So it basically trying to train the mind because mind thinks he's the control the body. So then there is somebody else on top of it who's trying to leash the mind. So that is how it is going to be controlled. Just
Yes, Prabhuji, and yes, Hari Bol, wonderful. So Ramesh Prabhu, Rekha Mataji, both of you very nicely mentioned that it's the mind that's influencing the body to do things, right? So remember, there are three functions of mind: thinking, willing, and feeling. So willing means desires, like Prabhuji mentioned. So the desire to consume something or desire to engage in illegal activities, illicit relationships, all these things are originating in the mind. And then it's making the body act. So imagine there are two people that are in a tussle, right? So mind is trying to push its limits and you are trying to limit the mind so that it cannot push those boundaries, right? So by disciplining of the body, you are pushing the mental boundaries, right? You're limiting it. You're limiting the mind. You're not letting the mind push you around, just like Prabhuji very nicely mentioned. You're training it, you're taming it. You're not letting it push you around. You are setting the boundaries, setting the boundary that this is my domain. You don't have any say in it. I firmly decide that this is what I want to do or not do. So discipline of the body, it shows your resilience against the mind. Like for example, when we say waking up early, mind can tell you, oh no need, just sleep a little bit more. But every time that you overcome the mind, every time you defeat it, right, you make it weaker, so it cannot push its limits. Otherwise, mind, like an enemy, will keep pushing its limits and will corner you, so you will get cornered. So instead of letting it corner you, you be the big guy in the arena who's pushing the mind around, who's punching the mind around, not let the mind push or punch you around. So by waking up early, by working out, even exercise, mind will say, don't go to the gym today, do you've done enough. Mind will trick you, it will cheat you, it will misguide you. So but you overcome it, you show your resilience. So by disciplining of the body, you are basically saying that these senses, this body is in my control, not yours, right? Not yours. So in this way, you are ignoring the mind, you're convincing the mind, you are tricking it, like a child, you're trying to gently coax it, guide it, trick it, like that, fool it if you have to. So in this way you keep mind under your control and not let the mind control you. And that is why Prabhupada used to call these regulative principles, these principles of self-control, he used to call them regulative principles of freedom, because it actually frees you, right? How does it free you? So let me show you. So these are the regulative principles of freedom, which we talk about. Freedom means that I'm free to do what I want. Whereas slavery means that I'm under somebody's control. So if you are under the control of mind and senses, then you are their slave. They have become your master. But Goswami, or mastermind, master of the mind, is somebody who has become master of the mind and senses. So freedom comes from overcoming your body, your mind, and intelligence, not letting them overcome you, the real soul, the self. So freedom comes from discipline, from regulative principles, from self-control. These things actually give you freedom. That's why in this verse, Rup Goswami is saying, train or practice your mind and tongue 24 hours. Nityam or satatam, right? Krishna says, satatam kirtantomam. Practice this discipline, these regulative principles, 24 hours. Okay. In chapter 8, Krishna says, Mai asakta mana partha yogam yunjam mad ashraya. That make your mind attached to me by practicing this yoga, this regulative principles, this disciplinary practice, and bring them under your control. Bring mind and intelligence under your control. That is why, if you see people that are actually addicted, they are not free. They're not free. They're slaves to their addiction. They're slaves to their intoxication. They have this craving, this thirst, this dependence on that particular thing. So they are given completely addicted to that particular temptation of this world. They have a need for it. They cannot feel fulfilled or satisfied without it. So that thing is controlling them. So it's not like you are controlling the cigarette. Initially, you may do that, but eventually you get addicted, you become its slave, and the cigarette starts controlling you. So, and in our case, well, it may not be the cigarette, it may not be the alcohol, but it may be something else. It may be our smartphone, or it may be that we have this tendency to keep checking emails, or keep checking WhatsApp, or keep checking Facebook, keep scrolling on social media. So these things, instead of becoming a tool for you, they have controlled you. So they are using you, not that you are using them. Not that you are using them. When you start consuming them so much, they start using you actually. So you have to get freedom from these. And that's why regulative principles of freedom. So Sadhguru is saying here, what human beings are suffering is not their bondage. They're suffering their freedom. So people say, we want to be free to do everything we want. We want to live our life freely. But you don't have the intelligence to understand what to consume, what not to consume in this world. So you start consuming these illicit things of this world that then make you addicted, that then entangle you. You become overpowered, overcome by them. So you become come under their bondage. So he says, if you suffer your bondage, that is all right. But if you suffer your freedom, that is tragedy. So now you're suffering the consequences of that freedom. So in this way, these are the 4 regulative principles of freedom that this is an example that how people think that we are getting free, but actually they're going into another cage, which may be a bigger cage. It takes them a while to realize that ultimately they're still within a cage. So from one cage to another. So rather than becoming a slave of this material world and its temptations, we are trying to become a servant of the Lord. Slave means you have no control. Servant means Krishna gives you full permission to do anything, right? Krishna does not tell you um, how much to serve him, in what mood to serve him. He gives you, he says, ye yatha mam prapadyante. However much you do, I will respond accordingly, that much, right? So Krishna even gives Arjun full permission to practice this if he wants, and if he does not want, then he can leave. He says, yathechasi tatha kuru. Whatever you desire, you do that. So our free will is our free will. If we engage that free will in service of the Lord, then we actually become free, truly become free. That's why it's called liberation. We become free from not only the bondage that we see in this world, but even the bondages that we do not see. We become free from all those subtle bondages also. And becoming servant of the Lord, that's why it's such a high position. It is considered higher than the masters. It's like the more in servitude you are, the higher your position is in spiritual world. Because spiritual world is completely upside down of material world. It's completely opposite to the material world. So servant, more the servant you are, higher is your position. So our free will, if we engage in this world, we become slave. So becoming a slave of the world or servant of Krishna, it's always desirable to become servant of Krishna. Okay, so this is about management of the mind. Let's for a few minutes discuss about this, the next aspect of this verse, which is residing in the dham and practicing in the dham. So this process that we are following with the discipline, with controlling the mind and tongue and regulative principles, this is called sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi bhakti. Vaidhi bhakti means rules, regulations, discipline, not spontaneous. By this process, we gradually develop taste, attachment, and conviction. In this process, we become gradually purified and we become more and more Krishna conscious, right? So in this way, Prabhupada is saying, Rupa Goswami is saying, if you reside in Vraja and start practicing like this under the guidance of an advanced devotee, then you will achieve perfection. So this is called Rag Marg, okay? Now Rag Marg is a very esoteric teaching, meaning it's more intimate service of the Lord, and it is done in 5 rasas. I think most of you know the 5 rasas. Anyone wants to mention those 5 rasas? Very quickly before. Navya, you want to mention? Is she there still?
I'm here.
Can you mention the 5 rasas in which a devotee serves the Lord?
Vatsalya bhav, Madhurya bhav, Shantaras, and Sakyaras, and the servitude.
So you said Shant, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhur. Which one did
and then
you?
the servant.
Huh?
Servant bhav.
Dasya bhav. Yes. So Shanta, Dasya. Very good. Wonderful. Thank you. Shantras, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, and Madhuryaras. Perfect. So, but before that, let me tell you a few things about Vrindavan, about Braj. Okay. So in our teachings in ISKCON, according to Prabhupada's instructions, Prabhupada's teachings, Vraj, living in Vraj is not that you are always physically living in Vraj. Vraja, Vrindavan, is not just a place. So to think that Vrindavan is just a place is not the best type of understanding. A sense of Vraja has to be understood. A sense of Vraja is the selfless service or sacrifice and love for the Lord. That is the essence of Vraja. So all Vrajvasis in their heart, they want to serve Krishna selflessly. They live in sacrifice for him. They live in love and attachment to him. This is the essence of Vraja. So even if you are not physically on the Vraj Bhumi, if you are not living in the place Vraja, you need to be in the mood of Vraja. And to Prabhupada, that was more important than living in Vraja. Somebody could be living in Vraja, but if they are not very pure, then it's actually not recommended, because actually that may hamper their advancement. They may be committing more offenses. They may be mostly offenses is the problem, but Prabhupada says many, many times that you cannot take to living in Braja or this process of Rag Marg prematurely. This will actually degrade us. So more important is to assimilate the mood of service and sacrifice and love, internalize that mood. Serving in the mood of a loving devotee, like a Vrajvasi, is more important than to just live in Braja. And Prabhupada showed that in his own life, actually. So did Mahaprabhu. If you remember, Mahaprabhu did not stay in Braj. Mahaprabhu he took sannyas and he lived in Jagannath Puri. Of course, he wanted to live in Braja, but by the arrangement of devotees, Nityanand Prabhu and others' desires, he lived in Mother Sachi, and they all wanted him to live in Jagannath Puri. So he lived in Jagannath Puri. He did not live in Braja. That same Mahaprabhu who said that Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajes Tanyas Tadhama Vrindavana Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Va Kalpita. That same Mahaprabhu said this, that our worshipable Lord is the Vrajpati. Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajes Tanyas Tat Dhama Vrindavana, whose dham is Vrindavan. And we have to serve him in the mood of Brajvadhus. Ramya Kachidupasana Brajvadhu. Bargenava na Kalpita. In that mood we have to serve. That same Mahaprabhu himself did not live in Braja. He instructed his disciples, like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, of course, went and lived there. But they were also sent for a particular service. They were given very specific tasks that you do this, you do this. And if that task was, since that those services were needed, they were sent to Vraja, that you have to find these places of Radha Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. You have to establish temples in Vrindavan. You have to establish Vaishnava etiquettes. You explore all these places of pastimes and write all the Vaishnava literature, write all the Vedic literature in easy to understand language. So they were given very specific task. But he himself did not live there. He did not tell Nityanand Prabhu or Haridas Thakur to live in Vrindavan. I want this point to be very, very clear, because this is a misunderstanding. Just because, Mahaprabhu, Rup Goswami is saying here, Tishtan Vraje, what does that mean to us? It does not mean that I'm going to run to Vrindavan and start staying there and give up all my services here. You need to stay where you will be most valuable in serving. Because ultimately, in end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says what? Those people are most dear to me that are spreading my message to everybody. In Vrindavan, people already know the message. That's why Prabhupada came out of Vrindavan. He was a Vrajvasi. He was living there. He was residing in Radha Damodar temple, from where he could see Rup Goswami's Samadhi. Yet he left that beautiful Vrindavan, and he said that when I came to US, instead of smelling tulsi everywhere, Brinda Devi ki khushbu aane ki bajaye, I could smell beef everywhere. So he came to this place to carry out the mission that that Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita, that you have to spread my message everywhere, because that devotee is most dear to me. So for fulfilling that instruction of Krishna, for fulfilling the instruction given by his guru, for fulfilling the mission of Mahaprabhu, he came out, because he understands the heart of Mahaprabhu. The heart of Mahaprabhu, the heart of Krishna is not saying that you just stay in Vrindavan. It is saying that you stay in a place and make it Vrindavan. Make a place Vrindavan, not that you just stay in Vrindavan yourself. Well, how is that going to help? There are so many Brajvasis, so many Babas that are living there, but they don't come out of Vrindavan, and they don't spread teachings like Prabhupada. But look at what Prabhupada did. Look at the whole movement that he started. Look at this mission that he started single-handedly. You and I will not be sitting here if Prabhupada had not come out of Vrindavan. We are the direct result of somebody coming out of Vrindavan. So when we read this line, Tishtan Vraja, we have to understand that this is talking about making a place where you live the Dham, carrying Vrindavan, the essence of Vrindavan in your heart, assimilating the mood of Vrindavan in your heart and giving it to everyone. Vrindavan is Vrindavan because of Vrajvasis. So you become a Vrajvasi yourself. Ma mekam by ma mekam sharanam Vraja. But you can become Vrajvasi by coming under the shelter of Krishna wherever you are. It's not a physical place. Do not mistake that Vrindavan is just a physical place. Vrindavan is a mood, it's a sentiment, it's an emotion, it's a seva bhav, it's love and attachment for Krishna sitting wherever you are. So this is something we have to understand. Similarly, for Rag Marg also, Prabhupada did not give us the Rag Marg very much. And some of the other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj would sometimes criticize that he did not give the teachings of Rag Marg. But actually, Prabhupada gave us the process on how to get to Rag Marg. He gave us the process of sadhana bhakti, which leads up to the Rag Marg. So we don't need to know the details of, and he gave nectar of devotion, which actually has Rag Marg, every Raganuga and Ragatmika bhakti in it. But we don't need to know what is at the top of the hill. He gave us the whole staircase by which we can get up to the hill. So people may be climbing, falling down that hill, but he gave us an elevator, a staircase by which we can easily get up to that hill of Ragatmika Raganuga Bhakti. So spiritual dham has very, very important details, which we'll hopefully discuss next time. This is just some of the things. Sometimes when we talk about dham, we think that it's an imaginary place. We think that devotees have just created this place. There is no such thing as spiritual world. This physical world is only place where we are. But actually, if you see, here C.S. Lewis says, if I find myself in a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. So there is another world, there is a spiritual dham, and it's not a concoction, it's not a manodharma, a mental concoction. It is real. One of the best examples of that is that in this life, as we are living, you see there are people creating Disneyland, fantasy lands, magical kingdom, Universal Studios. So people are creating all these fantasy make-believe things, Hogwarts, or so many fantastical worlds people have created within this material world. Why? Because we have this inherent urge, we have this inherent inclination. We know that there is something more than this world of miseries. There is something paranormal, something supernatural, something supramundane. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj used to say supramundane. There is something that is extraordinary, that is not mundane, it's supramundane. We have this inherent urge to go there. That's why we create these Disneylands and fantasy lands. This place where every word is a song and every step is a dance. And that place is not imaginary. The more we study the science, the true, genuine scientists, they understand that there is so much to explore in this world that we have not discovered. Even this material world, we are not able to discover completely. They become more and more open-minded as they discover this universe. They understand how small they are, how vast this creation is. As you go out of outer space, you see that Earth is just a blue marble. And there are so many other marbles like that floating around in this space. So you understand that cosmic manifestation is very vast actually. And we scientists, they've truly scientific people understand how little we know. Like being a doctor, being a physician, I'm constantly coming across my limitations and coming across the realities where I understand how little we know. And we keep discovering this creation of Krishna. We can only discover it. We cannot make it. We cannot. We can only explore it. So we are just exploring more and more things. And as we continue exploring more, we understand that these things are actually very universe, cosmic manifestation is very vast, and we are just a small speck. So it's very foolish and arrogant to think, to dismiss ultimate reality. So people have created this fantasy, but the spiritual dham is actually a reality. It is actually ultimate, supreme reality. So scholarly people understand this. That's why these scholars like Rup Goswami, Jeev Goswami, they were so intelligent. They were so smart. That's why I told you how intelligent Rup Goswami was in the very first chapter, very first lecture of this class. And these people have revealed the spiritual world to us. Because they have the spiritual vision. So scientists or medical people or physicists or, these people cannot reveal the spiritual world because they don't have the spiritual vision. But the great devotees of the Lord to whom Krishna reveals the spiritual world can be understood through them. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there is another unmanifest nature. He says, Paras tasmat tu bhavo anyo. Anya. There is another. Para tasmat. There is another world which is eternal and transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So there is spiritual world. I just wanted to finish with this. And in that spiritual world, devotees serve in various rasas, and there is a hierarchy of rasas, and there is a gradation of rasas. And based on that gradation of rasas, the spiritual dham is then further divided into Vaikuntha, Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, and Radhakund. But we can only understand the gradation of the dham once we understand that there is a dham. So first of all, we have to be convinced that the spiritual dham, the abode of Krishna, is real, and Krishna in Bhagavad Gita keeps calling us over and over again back to his dham. So we will get more revelations on this dham in next few verses. Hopefully next 1 or 2 sessions will finish Nectar of Instructions. I'll stop here. There's a lot to say because now we're talking about Lord's Dham, which has many, many details, but I'll stop here. Thank you everyone for joining. Please share your realizations, understandings, and any questions. Hare Krishna. Who wants to share or ask anything?
Mataji, I just wanted to share one thing.
Yes, Prabhu.
So we're talking about the mind, how it is uncontrollable and running around with all the ideas. So whole marketing department, right, is making use of that. The whole material, and if you look at the metal plane, even in America or any other place, right?
Advertisements,
marketing is mainly focused on how do we, catch this mind running around mind from somebody and then make, sell the product or whatever, make money out of that. So yeah, this is really hard for anybody to understand from the people who are in business, and they don't want to know these things. They don't want people to teach this because that's going to hinder their product selling or their company's bottom lines.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hari Bol. So yeah, when we were reading Sri Ishopnishad, actually we discussed this point that the whole marketing, advertisement, business, and everything is basically control of mind. That's how they make you shopaholics. That's how people become addicted to so many things of this world. So the verse in Bhagavad Gita says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshopajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodho Vijayate. Dhyayato. So what the marketing or advertising people do, they do dhyato. They tack onto dhyato. Dhyato means they bring your attention and absorption towards something. And once you start focusing on something, I want this car, I want a Tesla, whatever car, and I keep focusing on it, or something I want this ring, diamond ring, and I keep focusing on it. I want anything, I don't know, just think of something in this world, and I keep focusing on it. So dhyato vishayan pumsa. So mind mein everything starts. You start focusing on something, and then mind leads you to attachment. Sanga steshopajayate. Sang ka ki utpatti hoti hai. So your mind becomes attached to that thing, and then it causes your senses to start demanding it. And then calm, so that leads to lust or calm. So kama krodha, and then calm, when that calm is not fulfilled, it leads to krodh. Or when it's fulfilled but does not give you enough satisfaction for long term, or let's say kuch ho gaya, किसी ने आपकी ring चुरा ली या गुम हो गई या something, then क्रोध भी जाते हैं. Or you could never get it, then क्रोध भी जाते हैं. So then krodha comes. So in this way, mind is where we can stop things. We can stop that it's not my mind that's desiring this. It's my mind that's feeling this. It's my mind that has these emotions and thoughts about people or about circumstances or situations. That's where we can stop. Okay. Rekha Mataji is saying, Mataji, you can say in please say both. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, anybody else wants to share anything? So we have 2 minutes. I'll just ask you one thing. You know, we go to all these dhams, and these dhams appear very dirty, right? Kahin pe kachra, kooda, sewage, dirty, unwashed type. So how should we understand that? Can somebody share about it? Rekha Mataji, you've been there. Hiral Mataji, I don't know who else. Nagarchan Prabhu, Shalja Mataji. Somebody has not, Namita Mataji, who's not shared. Please, I want to hear. Why does Dham appear so dirty? Didn't we just say Vrindavan, Ramya Sthana, Chintamani Dham, Mandir, Manohara? It's very Manohar. It's like a beautiful jewel-studded place. हमको तो जाते हैं तो jewel-studded तो नहीं लगता, कोई चिंतामणि नहीं दिखते, कोई.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. So it is so we don't have because we see the dham through material eyes. That is why it appears dirty to us or not clean to us. But we need to look at the dham through spiritual eyes, through the eyes of the gurus and the shastras. And once we are looking at the dham like that, then it can reveal to us. So dham does not reveal to us with mundane consciousness. The dham only can reveal to us with spiritual consciousness, which can come through reading and association of devotees. So we need to look at the dham through spiritual consciousness. That's how it could reveal to us. And we are not at the level that we can look at or see the jewels that are there and the desire trees that are everywhere in Shivindavan Dham. We are not at the level to understand that. But when we listen to the acharyas and we listen to read the books about it, we can get a glimpse into it.
Yes, wonderful. The analogy given for this is, like when you use a computer, some of the functions are not, you don't have access to them. Like when I use my office's clinic's computer or my hospital's computer, certain things are logged. They're only for administrative purposes, or certain things are not accessible. Like let's say for children also, you will lock certain parental locks are there, right? On TV or on certain devices, you will have these locks, and so you can't tinker with those. So until you have those capacity, qualification, function, advanced understanding, you're not allowed to access certain things, right? Because you may cause more damage. So in this way, different people have different levels of access. So just like all computer users do not have access to all functions of computer. Similarly, in spiritual dham also, materially conscious people do not have access to the spiritual glories of the dham. So you do not have that vision by which you can see the Chintamani dham, the jewel-studded, beautiful. Let me show you a beautiful picture of the. See this beautiful dham. You may not have access to that. So we cannot appreciate all the glories of the dham because we are just functioning on a sensory and mental basis, right? Mind and senses se hi kaam kar rahe hain. We cannot perceive those glories with our mind and senses. So until we develop that type of potency, we can feel some vibration, some, because we are spiritually oriented people, so we will feel some energy, some vibration, some potency in the dham. Our chanting will be better, our consciousness will be better. So dham will have influence on us, and because we are spiritually inclined, we will connect to those spiritual vibrations of the dham. But we will but completely materially conscious people, they will not be able to appreciate much. They'll be saying, ye kya hai, kuda, ye wo, and they'll just go there and eat golgappa and just chaat tikki and not really connect to the spiritual people, not really visit the temples and not really understand the glories of the dham. So first, like Nagarjuna Prabhu said, you have to hear. So you hear from scriptures, from guru, from devotees, the description of the dham and the leelas. Hear about Krishna's leelas, his devotees, about the dham. And combine, when you go there, combine that with your sensory perception, with your mind and senses perception. And with those mind and senses, then engage yourself there in sadhu sangha, in harikatha, kirtan, visiting temples, in service. That will purify your mind and senses. And eventually, your spiritual senses will awaken. So you will become more in tuned. Your spiritual consciousness, as and more it progresses, it advances, you will be able to connect to that vibration, those wavelength that the dham is emanating, which you're not connected to right now. जैसे dog whistle होती है ना, dog whistle only dog can hear. We cannot hear. So our ears are not capable of hearing. We don't have that capacity, that qualification, that potency. So as you slowly purify yourself, engage more and more in spiritual activities, you can get tuned to those enhanced spiritual vibrations and vision, and you can start connecting. But also we go more, so we go more for our purification. We go to engage in service. We go not to take the darshan of the Lord, but to give our attendance to the Lord. इसलिए हर किसी को धाम में एंट्री भी नहीं मिलती. क्यों? क्योंकि भगवान, जब आप सेवा में engage होते हो, जब you have that inclination to serve the Lord, then you are able to get permission into the धाम. And कई लोग धाम में physically पहुंच भी जाते हैं, but they can only appreciate the dham physically, but they don't have spiritual admission into the dham at all. But
I
dham
like
is
that
very,
example, like the example that you gave, some of them. And I was also thinking, like, being in the medical field, like if I see some codes, like, people do coding. Sometimes children also nowadays are doing so much coding and other things. But for me, it is all gibberish. Like I cannot understand, like it's like a bunch of words which don't mean anything to me. But for people who understand that, who are coders and who are in computers, and for them it is like poetry. It's like beautifully they can understand it. A little wrong comma or a hyphen can change the whole thing. They can understand that. See, similarly, people in genetics, for them the genetic code, that is they can understand what one abnormal gene can do to the whole body, and how it can completely misfunction. The body will misfunction if there is one abnormality in that genetic code. It's nowadays whole genome sequencing. You can see exactly what all genes are there in somebody. So, but a lot of them don't make sense to other people. Or if I'm reading MRIs or echoes, I'm reading. So for me, it is like within a minute, I'll read through the whole thing. And sometimes I even have medical students and residents and fellows even, and they don't understand what is going on the screen. It's like, what is all this just gray, blue, red? What does it mean? So same way, if we don't have the knowledge about a subject, basically all these examples come to the point that if we don't have the knowledge about the subject, then it would not make sense to us. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. My dad was doing sonography. I do sonography. So it's just black and white shadows on the screen for most people, right? But I can appreciate the baby with the heartbeat and with organs and everything. So yeah, and it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful baby that I can see, but other person may not see. So yeah, we have to develop our spiritual vision. And we go there to give our attendance to the Lord, to get his blessings, to get the blessings of the wonderful devotees that are serving there, living there, and live there for just a few days, not too long, so we don't cause too much offenses with our material consciousness. Like the material consciousness may, when we are operating on the level of mind and senses, you'll cause a lot of aprad. So we just go there for a limited time for purification and spiritual rejuvenation, charge your batteries and come back. Okay, with that, I'll stop. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Vanchakalptarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Updeshamrit ki jai. Srila Rup Goswami ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.